Attention, Los Angeles Chargers fans! A bombshell has just dropped and you won't believe what's happening. What has just been revealed is something we've never seen before. A twist that's setting the NFL ablaze and leaving rivals in shock. But what he just confirmed, directly on the Chargers' radar, changes everything. And of course, you'll get all the exclusive details here, firsthand, before any other channel. But hold on, if you're new here, don't waste any time and subscribe now. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any of the daily updates and be the first to know about the hottest plays of the Bolts. Now hold on tight, because what we're about to reveal will be a game changer. The entire NFL is talking about it, and the impact the Chargers could feel from now on will be tremendous. But before we reveal more, let's take a look at what's about to shake things up and make you rethink everything you thought about the future of this season. It's a story of suspense, emotion, and of course, a lot of power. Let's get straight to the point. Fans, the atmosphere within the Chargers is one of utmost urgency. The team enters the bye week with a 7-4 record, and the feeling isn't one of relief, but of deep concern. Jim Harbaugh, who has maintained a firm stance since his arrival, spoke openly about the situation in the press conference, and his words reveal much more than what has been heard in the news. Harbaugh acknowledged the frustration, but made it clear that his confidence in the roster is unwavering. In his words, "It's the whole team I trust. They trust me too. They know how to handle problems. They won't back down." According to the coach, everyone in the organization has faced adversity in their careers and proven they know how to overcome it. Last Sunday's loss doesn't change that, but it increases the urgency for answers. Even with the recent setbacks, the Chargers enter the bye week within the playoff zone, occupying the 6th position in the AFC as the second wildcard team. And the curious thing is that, regardless of what happens in the Week 12 games, the Chargers remain in contention at the end of the round. This shows that the team's fate is still in its own hands. But Harbaugh knows that simply believing isn't enough. He decided to do something unusual. Give the players a complete break from Tuesday to Sunday. No practice, no walkthroughs, nothing. Why? Because this team is more worn out than few others in the NFL. They've played 11 games in a row, 3 trips, an international trip to Brazil, 4 preseason games, and all this since July 16th, without any real rest. The coach stated, "They deserve it. I want them to come back rested and ready to fight." But the fans know, rest is important, but it doesn't solve the team's biggest problems. And the truth is that even with a winning record and mathematical qualification, there's a nagging feeling that Harbaugh couldn't ignore. The humiliating losses that raise doubts about the Chargers' true strength. And it is precisely here that we enter the next point. A problem that goes beyond the record and the playoff numbers. Because the Chargers' biggest concern isn't the standings, but the way this team is losing. Fan, if we analyze the situation coldly, without passion and without illusions, there is still a real path for the Chargers in the fight for the postseason. The mathematical projections clearly show this. The Athletic points to a 64% chance of the team advancing. ESPN closely follows with 63%, and even Next Gen Stats, which tends to be more conservative, puts the probability around 60%. In other words, the team is still alive, still in the competition, and still has its destiny in its own hands. However, cold numbers don't translate what is really happening on the field. The biggest concern is not the percentages, but rather the way the team has been playing, especially in the losses that have exposed deep flaws. There were 3 losses, all to opponents that, under normal conditions, the Chargers were fully capable of overcoming. These stumbles revealed a fragility that didn't exist at the beginning of the season. Back then, the team seemed solid, dominant, and even comfortable. They led the AFC West with authority after winning every game within the division, conveying the feeling that they were the overwhelming favorites in the group. Today, however, the scenario has changed drastically. The team is showing itself to be inconsistent, emotionally unstable, vulnerable to basic errors, and incapable of maintaining a sequence of good performances. And what really raises the alarm is the upcoming schedule, possibly one of the most treacherous in the entire conference. Week 13, Raiders. Week 14, Eagles. Week 15, Chiefs. Week 16, Cowboys. Week 17, Texans. Week 18, Broncos. On paper, mathematically, winning winning 3 of these games would practically guarantee the Chargers a playoff spot. But when we analyze their recent form, the reality changes completely. Each of these matchups, this presents a concrete risk. Even the Houston Texans, who at one point seemed like an easy opponent, now appear as a serious threat, especially considering how the Chargers have been reacting in games considered winnable. And it's impossible not to mention the ghost that has returned to haunt the team, the loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars. That game made a worrying pattern clear. The Chargers don't just lose, they collapse. These aren't hard-fought losses, decided by details. They are precipitous falls, games where absolutely nothing works. And when that happens, the psychological impact on the roster is evident. All this leads us to a question that keeps Harbaugh and the fans awake at night. Are we about to see another sharp drop in the final stretch? Harbaugh knows that this possibility is real if nothing changes immediately. But to change, the team needs to attack what has become the biggest structural problem of the season, the center of almost all the errors, pressures, and offensive collapses. And here we begin to enter the most tense part of this scenario, because in the end, none of that will matter if the offensive line continues to collapse completely. The reality is harsh, and there's no way to soften it. The Chargers' offensive line is going through one of its worst periods since the beginning of the Harbaugh era, and that's no exaggeration. It's the direct result of a dangerous combination of serious injuries, forced improvisations, and decisions made almost always under pressure. The loss of Rashawn Slater, one of the pillars of Justin Herbert's protection, coupled with the physical problems that limited Joe Alt, completely destabilized a sector that should have been the most stable on the team. The OL has become an improvised mosaic, changing formations and starters practically every week, without ever finding continuity. The most recent example of this chaos is the case of Trevor Penning. He was acquired from the Saints for just a 6th-round pick, which already said a lot about the level of confidence New Orleans had in the player. Even so, in an attempt to find any viable alternative, the Chargers put him directly at left tackle. The result was disastrous. Penning allowed 5 pressures, 1 sack, and demonstrated enormous difficulty in basic protection reads, contributing to the 35-6 loss to the Jaguars. His performance was so below acceptable that Harbaugh had no choice but to substitute him during the game, putting Austin Deculus in his place. But the problem isn't just Penning. Jamari Salyer, who in past seasons has proven reliable and even versatile, is facing a particularly difficult year. His numbers tell the story. 11 pressures allowed, 3 sacks, and 3 penalties committed. Statistics that help explain why Herbert has struggled so much to keep the offense functional. And even with this below-average performance, the truth is that the team doesn't have many options. The offensive line's depth is limited, and any more robust solution is only likely to arrive in the next offseason, either via the draft or the market. With Herbert constantly pressured, the impact is also reflected in the running game. Kimani Vidal, who had been taking on a good portion of the responsibilities, left injured in the last game, although he returned later. This further increases the expectations surrounding Omarion Hampton's return. Before going on IR, Hampton was an essential piece in the offense, accumulating 450 total yards and 2 touchdowns, bringing explosiveness and reliability to the backfield. Harbaugh stated that his return could happen after the bye week, depending on his physical progress in training. Given this scenario, the Chargers have little time and many urgent decisions to make. The team needs health, deep technical adjustments, and a solid contingency plan for the offensive line, all of which must be built in just about 10 days. And there is a clear reason for this urgency. The first game after the bye week is precisely against the Raiders, a matchup that could define the course of the entire season and seal the Chargers' fate in the playoff race.